on these pit stops. But let's go back to his Ford electronics and look at the telemetry being given to us by Bozel's car. Again, the interesting thing is the speed on the right-hand side and the amount of throttle he uses. You can see him often he blips as he down changes. Accelerates. This is the carousel, one of the most difficult corners on this track. That's Buddy Lazier ahead of him in a Buick engine car. Needs to move over. No, he doesn't.
Bozel gets him nevertheless, as now to a very fast section of the course. But not as fast as he's been earlier.
189. That's, well, he was slow because he didn't go fast through the Cape because having to pass Buddy Lazier.
All right, here is the way they lined up before the pit stop to show you the impact of the pit stop on the race itself. On the left-hand side is the position before the stop. Of course, the driver's car number and name. On the right-hand side is how they came out of the pit stop. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, you mentioned Raul Boesel being out of the sequence. We expect him now, after checking with Dick Simon, in 2 more laps. Then they'll exhibit their skills, and we'll see how much of a price he has to pay as the leader now. But he won't be the leader a couple of laps from now.
Well, he'll certainly give up position to Nigel Mansell, who sits only 7 seconds back. Perhaps even Mario Andretti, but he still should remain in the top 5. Perhaps, if the stop goes well, coming out to battle with Ari Liontyte. His climb up through the field, well down after the stop, and then picking up the advantage of not having to stop on lap 17.
New sponsor on this car, Union Tank Car Company, part of the Marmon Group. They appeared at Indianapolis. Well, they're back in racing again now on the side of Bozel's car.
Bozel runs in 2nd place, chasing Paul Tracy, who is 3 seconds ahead. On board with Bobby Rahal. He runs in 9th, chasing Brian Till just ahead. Started in 20th, now runs in 8th.
Can't complain about that. That's a good run. One of last year's Penske cars. Brian Till trying to hang on to his IndyCar career. This is only a day-to-day drive that he has with Norm Turley's operation. Bob Liebert, who is his mentor, is still working on their own IndyCar program for Brian Till for next year that they hope they can put together.
Rahal wants everybody in front of him out of his way. As he comes through the carousel, he knows he has to keep the momentum up here. As Al Unser Jr. pulls off the edge of the race course. Could that be the same problem that bit Danny Sullivan?
No, I wouldn't think so. But this is a shame because Al Unser Jr., after he qualified 6th, thought he had the best handling car that he has had all year and really thought he could challenge to try and win this race. Now it's over.
Yesterday, Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. were working together on the setup of the cars. In fact, in good animated conversation several times in their pits as they discussed the situation on the track and how their cars were handling.
Great view of the elevation changes here. Look at that hill. Up the hill, up, and then you plane out of the top before you go past the pit lane. 190 miles an hour. We see almost everybody do. This is 4th gear. 4th gear. Now we go downhill. This is the 2nd gear corner. You can hear Rahal make 2 changes. And then you blast it back again. These engines work so hard here at Elkhart because of these long, long straights.
Run down here, Teo Fabi is being called into the pits for a pit speed violation, stop and go penalty. That's Teo Fabi in and out. They are also saying that a black flag will be displayed to Emerson Fittipaldi for a pit speed violation. You saw the yellow flag there at the top of the hill off to the right. That's for Al Unser Jr.'s car setting off in the gravel. Little Al's working on the car. Gary Gerald, can you help us with this?
Quick word from Rick Gallis. Gearbox problems for Junior. That's what put him on the sideline, Paul.
Only 3rd DNF for little Al in the last 2 years. And that's where he was, back at the gearbox, checking it out.
And lots of speculation as to what he will do next year. Will he stay in IndyCar? Believe it or not, Al Unser Spencer Jr. wants a Formula One opportunity, and Bozell is in.
So Raul drops out of second place and heads into the pits. Gary Gerald waits for him.
I'm glad you mentioned that second place, Paul. We inadvertently had him in the lead. Forgot that Tracy had the 3-second advantage. Now Raul, a couple of laps out of sequence, coming down pit road. We have him in sight now with the crew. We shoot from the front. We look from the back as he comes to a stop. Dick Simon's team that has stepped up so dramatically in the last couple of years. They've done a marvelous job with Bozell all season long. We don't see any changes up front. They clean out any debris from the radiators. They're ready. He's off the jacks. 14.7 on that stop.
And how does he come out? There comes Bobby Rahal and Robbie Gordon and Brian Till down the hill. They run 7th, 8th, and 9th. And so Raul will drop back as he battles with Brian Till.
And it is a battle. That is a fight for position right there. So Bozell on cold tires, full of fuel, is a battle for 9th place.
Stefan Johansson back under power and follows him down the hill. So whatever his problem was that pulled off, they got that fixed, and he got back into the fight, though he's well behind the field.
You are allowed to tow these cars back to the pit lane. You can work on them. You can get them to go again, and away you go back into battle.
So the early miscue on the pit stop put Bozell up to second, then dropped him back, but still he remains in the top 10. The front of the field, it is still Paul Tracy, you ride with Bobby Rahal, and Nigel Mansell is now running in second place, his teammate Mario behind him. At the Texaco Haviland 200, Robbie Gordon got around Bobby Rahal just a moment ago, so now Gordon runs in 6th place. In the meantime, they brought Emerson Fittipaldi in for a stop-and-go penalty for the pit speed limit violation. This could have a terribly adverse effect on his championship.
Terribly frustrating thing for a driver to have to deal with a stop-and-go penalty. But here's Gordon on the charge again, inside Rahal, his favorite position, turn 5. This time, he stays on the racetrack, and look what he does. He blocks Bobby Rahal on the run up the hill and under the bridge.
We're at the halfway point here in the Texaco Haviland 200. Let's get a further update on Adrian Fernandez. Here's Gary.
Dr. Jay Phelan is alongside. He's been observing, of course, Adrian Fernandez and treating him. Doctor, what can you tell us about his condition?
Well, it appears that Adrian's only injury is a bruised left kneecap. He was a little woozy when he came in, and he couldn't put everything together as to the sequence of the accident, but he's starting to come around. He's remembering a lot more now. He has no head injury that we can tell.
Well, we're pleased to hear that. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you.
Well, it's remarkable considering the accident that we saw that only a bruise results.
Just be thankful that IndyCar continue to make these foot boxes stronger and continue to move the driver's feet further and further away from these violent impacts, because don't make no mistake about it, violent impacts will continue, but it's better to have the driver his feet not to be first at the scene of the accident. Let some bulkheads be there first. Now here's the end. It looks like the end of Mark Smith's day. Boy, look, he crossed over the racing line there. I hope he cleared his mirror there first. But Mark Smith did a remarkably good job in qualifying all the way up in 9th place for a team that doesn't do every race.
Mark Smith heads up the road to the pits. He'll take a look at that car and find out what's wrong, hopefully get it back into the fight. Mark Smith, one of those new young drivers in the Indy cars that is certainly going to be someone to watch in the future. Watching right now, one of the new drivers is Paul Tracy. He leads this field. If his job is to be the rabbit and draw out Mansell, they have not drawn out Mansell. He has a solid lead over Mansell, but he may also be on his way to winning this race. The crew fell over Mark Smith's car.
And there he's passing the invisible Indy car. All I can see is the wheels. Of course, this is a new grey paint job on Dale Coyne's car, driven by Robbie Buell, which represents Simon. Simon, of course, is the distributor for MyJack Equipment, and of course, this is their local home race here, so the car represents their local or their corporate colors.
I don't know. Great car on a great track on a gray afternoon. I'm not so sure. Paul Tracy just in front of him. There's Robbie Buell.
Had a terrible time at Indianapolis. Went there with 2 cars and had 2 horrendous crashes. Almost stopped his season. Sent Dale Coyne back to the bank to try and scurry and gather up more cash to put another car under Robbie Buell, the reigning Indy Lights champion. One of the things he does is he's involved in the Racing for Kids program. And before he came here this weekend, he went to the Weiler Children's Hospital in Chicago to see 100 sick children. He does it regularly.
The penalty for Emerson Fittipaldi dropped him from 5th to 8th. Let's get an update from Gary.
We understand from the Penske camp, Paul, it was 92 miles per hour on the violation on the entry into the pit. What the Penske people are unhappy about is that they came in with Ari Luyendyk. They said if Emma was going 92 and was right behind Ari had to be going too fast. No penalty for Luyendyk. We don't have any other word on that situation. It's dropped Emma back, I believe, to 8. He lost 3 positions as a result of the stop and go.
And of course, that has been much of the argument all along. They have 3 people reading the speeds up and down the pits. Now, those 3 people then have to read on a track like this when virtually half the field comes in for pit stops all on the same lap. Second place, Nigel Mansell.
It's a difficult gray area to police that is controversial. However, the only reason they have it is for a safety reason. Remember what happened with Fittipaldi and Michael Andretti, a huge crash in the pit lane at Long Beach a couple of years ago. That's what they're trying to avoid.
Take a look at how Nigel Mansell has fallen somewhat behind the leader, lost 2 seconds in 1 lap there. He continues to look for a sight of the back end of Paul Tracy's car as he crests each of the hills, now in turn 1, downhill heading for turn 2. Let's go to Jan Beekes. They're doing some changes on these new Lolas.
That's right, Paul. Lola is trying to keep up with Penske. The Penske car is so quick, they have something new. It's called the high caster upright. What that means, it's a new upright. Upright just means it holds the wheel, the disc, everything. These holes right here have been moved in relation to these. That changes the caster. You say, well, what's caster? This is what we're used to seeing as a caster. You see them on your shopping carts. You try and push them around, and you can hardly keep them in a straight line. More caster means, it actually means more angle, which means self-centering on the wheel. What that does for you on an Indy car is that in the slow turners, when you turn the wheel tight, in the slow corners that is, it gives you more camber and more grip. It seems to be helping here in the slow turns. Only Mansell right now and also Bobby Rahal have these uprights.
Well, at the moment, there is no real evidence that it's caught up to what Paul Tracy is capable of doing, though. As Mansell continues, 14, almost 15 seconds behind the leader of the race. There is no one in contest with one another anywhere on the circuit here at Road America. Our coverage of the Texaco Haviland 200 is being brought to you by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Change in circumstance here at Road America. In the last few seconds, Ari Luyendyk trying to get around Hiro Matsushita. And he lost control. Now watch Luyendyk.
Watch the curb. He tries to get over the curb and he hits the guardrail. Look, bang, knocks the rear suspension off the guardrail in his haste to get out ahead of Robbie Gordon. Now what's this? Oh, he tells Matsushita what he thinks, or Matsushita, however you pronounce his name now.
Yeah, they change it about every 6 months. They say the pronunciation is now Matsushita. Apparently, not enough of a glance to do any damage to the car. Well, how can look what Mansell did in Indianapolis at over 200, smacking into the turn 2 wall and continued on in the final laps of that race.
Now watch Rahal here. That's a Chevrolet engine versus the Ford. Can he catch Matsushita on this front straight? Oh, he gathers them